What Drives You is brought to you by Ziglar, your premier source for equipping life and leadership coaches. Visit Ziglar.com and let them inspire your true coaching performance.
Yeah.
Welcome to What Drives You. I'm your host, Kevin Miller. Thanks for joining me as always as I talk with today's most influential change makers to uncover what truly drives them and extract the big takeaways from their insights so you can integrate that wisdom and leverage the power of your unique inner drive and wake every day to your authentic, driven, and inspired life. This is our What Drives Your Health show, where we give specific focus to our health and wellness, which is the vehicle that drives all that we do. In this episode, I wanted to hear from people who have made significant health improvements and to know what was their catalyst. So I asked listeners to share their health accomplishments, and I asked to hear from people who were out of shape and possibly ill, and then they got fit and healthy. And what was the catalyst for them? What triggered them to finally make change and commit to it? So my co-host is Randy James, medical doctor and functional medicine expert, and of course, my dear friend. So Randy and I talked through comments that included chronic back pain and back injury, weight gain due to health problems and medications, committing to health due to responsibility to family and not wanting to be a future burden on family, spinal surgery recovery, family history of heart attacks. The discussion was really rich on what caused these folks to take big action on their health. And we actually didn't get to half of the responses. So we're going to continue on with these in the next What Drives Your Health episode. But this should give many of you some significant inspiration and equipping to make any big changes you may be looking for in your own health and wellness journey. I have to say, though, I was grateful. We spent a week with 17 of us on the beach playing ultimate frisbee and swimming and hiking. I was so grateful for overall health and just all these kids, up to age, 26, who get it. I'm just grateful to pass that on. And I wanted to say Stephen Cruson, he's a listener, and he sent me a link, and I'll send it to you. It's called Patients Pedal Past Parkinson's, ABC News. So if you go to ABC News YouTube and put Patients Pedal Past Parkinson's, it's just really cool. I wanted you to see it. It's this really cool video, and I just wanted to mention it as a follow-up to that. It has a guy coming in, man. He's shaking and literally having a hard time walking. So they're assisting him. And, so he can't run. He can't do anything active. They put him on a bike. And I did.
Stationary bike.
No. That's what's crazy. Put him on a bike.
Gave his nerves different things to pay attention to, his balance and his...
Yeah, and I don't know that they said... maybe we could assume that he has been a cyclist or he
knew how to ride a bike.
He knew how to ride a bike, yeah. So maybe it wasn't that far. And so maybe kind of like that, how, people with Alzheimer's can play the piano or whatever. There's the muscle memory and whatnot. And he takes off at the hospital out the driveway and does a U-turn and comes back and just rides a little bit. But what was more important or more interesting was then after that, he gets off the bike and he's kind of good. It's like it rewired everything. And that's what the video is talking about, how they're taking people and they're using cycling in this and it shows this one guy and he's trying to write and his hand's just all over the place. Put him on a bike. He goes and rides around, comes back steady as can be. And
wow. Yeah. I'm very interested in that. That's so intriguing. And we've referred to this book a number of times, Dr. Norman Doidge, and the way that The Brain That Heals Itself and The Brain's Way of Healing are two books. And in that second one, The Brain's Way of Healing, there's a chapter on the Parkinson's. We talked about that and they were using walking and walk your way through this Parkinson thing. And how intriguing to put somebody on a bike. And that would have been the last thing I would have, because we would have anticipated, this guy can't do it. He's going to shake around everywhere. He's going to fall. But in the book, there's other movement disorders where you're disconnected and you're spastic or you're rigid and you can't let go fast enough to do something. And riding a bike is very fluid.
Yeah.
Right. There's got to be this fluidity to it, which is the opposite of kind of what Parkinson's is. In these other ones, they would put a thing on your tongue, and almost like wherever your head was in space, the bubbles would roll on your tongue that way.
Okay.
And so my thought there is it's kind of like cross training, that you're giving your brain a different set of signals to reset it, to reorient. The spatial awareness is a little off. We sort of burned out this one channel, and the brain's way of healing is to regrow and try to, like a bush or a weed, to grass growing in your yard, to keep fostering that through all of the channels. So, that's exciting.
You saying that though, it does beg the question, like with this guy that they're showing in the video, of you would have to make the assumption that he had spent a long time sedentary, a long time not riding a bike, and you wonder about preventative. And of course, I'm hoping, can I just keep riding a bike and keep doing burpees and keep doing the things so that I don't open the door?
Your chances,
increasing the chances, not a guarantee.
Yep.
Well, so I really just wanted to hear people's motive. I should have put this on the motive show to some degree, but it's in regards to health and wellness. People who have made a significant change, and what was the catalyst. So I just want to read through some of them. I think it'll be a great testimony for all of us just to hear them. And then if we've got any comments. So Denise Bergen, she says, I started doing 100 sit-ups per day along with other ab work and try to walk an average 4 miles a day. And I started this 7 years ago. In May, I walked 4.7 miles a day, and I was always, before that, stiff, had back pain. Before doing this, initially I lost weight. And I dislike the sit-ups, but my back starts bothering me pretty quickly when I stop. I love walking because most of the year I do it outside, which is where I prefer to be. I would run, but I have knee pain. And I asked her, so your motive was simply to alleviate the back pain? She says, yeah, initially the back pain and stiffness. And I was also just starting to feel old and out of shape at 52. All of this made a huge difference. And it made me think of you just saying the blessing of pain.
Yeah.
It's Randy's consummate, the blessing of pain. I did want to point out, she talked about running. Again, how great that she's just realized even that I don't like doing sit-ups, but if I don't, I have back pain. Well, you would tell me, great. You told me that today. You said something about that, well, could you have pain there? So you'll do what you need to do.
Pain, right. The blessing of that information. Pain is information.
Yeah.
And in all humans, does back pain mean, oh, well, yeah, you're missing sit-ups? And of course, the answer is no. And for her, it was. And on the preventative side, for all of us on the other, is if you're never doing crunches, let's say crunches instead of sit-up, if you're never exercising the front part of you, and on the backside, it's the Superman exercise, right? Yeah. The extension and if you're never doing that, then you're increasing the chances that there's going to be a consequence, and your body will say, hey, here's a little bit of pain. And for her, and that's where I'd say, well, yeah.
I would say core stuff is probably my least favorite. I mean, I don't enjoy it. I don't mind push-ups, so I'll do that. And that's kind of a moving plank, I guess, that I'll do. But man, just doing the core stuff. So good on her for doing it. Well, this is a good one. Cindy Wallace-Sipes. She says, my journey's been up and down. Many times my weight gain has been due to health problems or medication. The key for me was to stop looking at scale numbers and clothing size and just get to a point of feeling good. When my husband had his heart attack, his nutritionist was amazing. I'm seeing her now. She's the first one who understood my health issues and is tackling each issue one at a time. She's down to earth and knows how to prioritize each health issue to tackle first. And so I asked Cindy, I responded back, and this is on Facebook. And I said, just the sick and tired of being sick and tired aspect, was that the motive? And she says, I always wanted to be healthy. I just needed someone to believe in me and believe in what was holding me back. And I found people who did believe in me. And because of that, they were focused on me feeling good instead of just the numbers. I want to be able to travel and do all the things I love to do. And that's functional medicine, which I know is difficult, but for her to find somebody, and I've heard other stuff from her. She was feeling like, okay, I get all this health and wellness stuff, but I have this issue. Help me around this specific thing. And she actually had gallbladder issues and had surgery there. But how many people are there and they're trying all the things that seem to work, but it's not working for them.
Right.
Yeah.
This is, and hats off to her. You know, here again, we're going to have good stories today of people saying, I did this and and it helped. And now I'm thinking of her 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or another 1,000 people that are saying, yeah, but I don't have that person who believes in me or who can think through this. Mm-hmm. So does it, and so the one, congratulations to her, and one caution I would put there, even to what you just said, ultimately, you're not missing the right healthcare practitioner or person or coach out there. Ultimately, you can be that person. I mean, is that fair? Now, granted,
it's fair. It's harder. We'd all like to just have somebody say,
sure,
okay, I figured you out.
Right.
And that's what you have people paying you for.
Yeah. And I invite that. I want to be
go to truelifemedicine.com
to be the coach, the doctor docent who's looking at you. And I think a time or two ago, we said the golf swing. So we could say, if she had a tummy ache, and we could say, well, somebody's paying a lot of money for a golf coach because he keeps slicing the ball. And one coach walks by and says, oh, change your grip. And on one person, it's like, oh my gosh, that's exactly it. But of course, the guy actually has to change his grip. He has to redo the way he's practicing. He has to employ that. He owns his own golf swing. Mm-hmm. And so almost on anything, will you do better with a coach? Whether you're learning Spanish or you're Michael Jordan learning basketball?
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think that's kind of what she was saying, is that I needed somebody to believe in me like a coach. It isn't about the scale numbers. It isn't about those kind of things. So to people out there who are still struggling, I would say, don't hope only in that, oh yeah, I need that one single person. Recognize that the most important person in there is still you. And we're also saying, absolutely, you are more likely to get better with the kind of coach that is going to resonate with you. So there's both of that, but I don't want people to think, oh, I can't do it because I don't have that person believing in me. There is still hope.
I am okay. So I'm with you. I would be personally hard pressed not to go. You put me in any state, any country, whatever, and with my issue, I'm probably not going to. I mean, I'm going to try to self-educate, of course, but I also want to encourage people to go try and go to the ends of the earth to try to find that person in your area. I mean, these days there's more opportunities remotely to do it. Telemedicine in essence, or coaching, to get somebody who has context with you, because that
is functional medicine. But
even you say there's people out there who are of similar kindred spirits to you as providers, who go into the terms of integrative medicine, or what are some other top ones? It's not a guarantee, but functional medicine is not a guarantee. You can find a bad functional medicine provider.
Sure. There is no guarantee, but alternative medicine, and even in a naturopathic, homeopathic, chiropractic, all of these people who they're out there saying, I want to help.
Yeah.
And they've got to make a living too. And the cost of it, and the confusion with insurance and all of those kind of things tends to be the smoke and mirrors that ultimately people say, well, I tried that. And that didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I would say, well, okay, but you're still your own responsibility, and your health is your opportunity. It's mostly your fault. I mean, if we get right down to it, but I know that's a hard statement.
Well, no, but I love that. If it's my fault, that means I have power.
It's hopeful. Yeah.
And it's also I want to give grace to that, because it's my fault because I'm just ignorant. I haven't been exposed.
And the doctors didn't know.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, we've gone through, you and I have gone through 5 decades of the first half of our life of standard American diet.
Yeah.
And, for me until 40, 6 hours of sleep. And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we didn't know, but to know that it is my own fault gives me great hope and encouragement to know that, well, tomorrow I can change that.
Okay. I want to stick here. We may make this a 2-part show, because what you said, I want to come back now and support it too. So outside of those providers, there is nobody on earth who can have more context than us. And it actually made me think back to, 20 plus years ago with my first son and all his medical stuff. And we realized that you get the best brain surgeons, the best, everybody, the best experts. They are, and this well, they're all in the medical community. They are all in their lane. That's what they specialize in. And we realized frustratedly at first that, oh my gosh, we are the only ones who have full context. Can we just find a doctor who can just
come home and live with us and understand all of these other pressures that we have? And oh my gosh, I know he's supposed to eat keto, but he doesn't like that food. What am I supposed to feed him?
And the answer was no. And we realized, okay, it is us.
Yeah.
We're the ones with him 24 hours a day in the hospital, out of the hospital. We know what's going on. So even though the brain surgeon says, okay, well, the best treatment would be X, we might say, oh, that actually happened to him before, and this is what happened. So we can't do that one. Well, nobody knew but us in the context. So, and then it also made me think of, gosh, when I look at a couple of the most primary insights I have gotten in my own health and wellness, I got them. Now I got them through the context of a lot of content and providers, like you, like Jane, the nutritionist that was here, like Stefan over here, chiropractor, that I think the best insights were not because you said, Kevin, figured it out. It was you asking questions, asking this, and that goes along with the context that I read over here and somebody asked over here. And you being in a part of that team helped me go, boom, light bulb.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Nobody can be me and in my head. So I'm supporting you of saying, yeah, we are our best healthcare provider, but it does need to be within us.
A framework.
Trying to curb that ignorance we have and get educated. And that's frustrating because we think, I've got a full-time job. I'm an expert over here. I'm a dad. I'm a spouse, whatever.
Just pay the doctor to think for me and tell me what to do.
And it just doesn't work. And I wonder how many people of your patients would say, oh my gosh, I am better now because Dr. James absolutely nailed it. He figured me out. Or would they say, he helped me figure it out?
The latter.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's a really big red flag warning when you hear that first one, because I would say, well, no, then you didn't understand. Because never in our product of, hey, hire me as your doctor coach, are we saying I've got the key for you? In fact, if we say the opposite, you've got the key for you. But is there a framework of thoughtfulness and you bring in the spiritual side of things and the relational side of things and the stressful side of things and all of that? There's no possible way to have a light bulb moment that's going to sustain you forever, because you're going to be a year older next year.
Yeah. And
what has worked might not work, and there's evolution and there's time and there's all of these things going on. And still even now I'm thinking of the person who says, yeah, I got all that, but what about in this kind of situation?
Yeah.
And I get it. I want to be there to help people think through that of, do I take product A or B, or do I eat this food or that food? And you and I, we're doing that to ourselves.
Well, and so, and encouraging or taking responsibility that it is on us. We're the primary health provider, which that's something we just have to take responsibility for, which is, it can be frustrating, but it's humankind. Just like I can get frustrated with my kids' education and the teachers out there and whatever, but ultimately it's my kid. I don't want to be their teacher, but sorry, I'm their parent and I have to take that responsibility. So, there's, I think, really good context for you're the primary health provider, but find people to help ask the right questions, to help you, figure that out. The other thing though, that Cindy talks to there that we come back to so often is the importance of just finding encouragement and support.
I was going to say connection, resonance. Yeah.
And if that's a healthcare provider, or that's your friends and Weight Watchers or Curbs, or at the health center and the Zumba class, on the online fitness forum, whatever, that, man, it's just, we can't overemphasize the power of community and have people to support you. And even now, as I talk about, man, I love going to do my exercise by myself. I don't need any accountability. It probably is unfair because, like you, where did it all start for me? Team sports. I mean, I did for decades cycling with my teammates, and that became ingrained. And like you said, it created that path, that neural pathway.
Yeah. That you can go back to easily.
That now it's habit. It is ingrained, a good habit.
Yeah.
And so if you're out there without having that, to go create that alone is just so hard. It would just, whether it's providers or just friends, man, find even one person to go it with you.
Yeah. Create your own little blue zone as much as you can.
Yes. Jeff Bayless here. He says, what was the catalyst for his health? He says, when my son was born, I was burning the candle at both ends. It was eye-opening to become a father and understand that I was responsible for another human life. I quit smoking and partying. I started running and in general started the trajectory towards the healthy lifestyle I live now. Health is more than the number on the scale. Mental, physical, and spiritual health all lift the tide for your ship to sail safe. It's a long journey, but the most important one for sure.
Amen.
Amen. I mean, we love that one because how I do think about that. Well, actually, here, check this out. American Psychology. Let me read one more and I'll give you a stat. Dan Moyle also says, in January 2019, I was 290 pounds. I started making healthier food choices. In January 2020, just before the pandemic, I started walking every day. It helped my mind and helped my physical health. I lost 60 pounds over those 2 years, all because I wanted to live longer and see my kids grow up. So I asked him, I said, was there a specific moment of realizing, hey, I want to live longer and see my kids grow up? And he says, it was the moment I stepped on the scale, saw the number, and realized that if I kept going this way, I would die in my sleep.
Wow.
Okay, so here's my stat. American Psychological Association, according to estimates from the National Alliance for Caregiving, during the past year, and I think this was last year, 65.7 million Americans, or 29% of the adult U.S. of the adult U.S. population, are served as family caregivers for an ill or disabled relative. That's its own chronic health issue now, is the burden of caring for
on the family.
Our older.
So 30% of adults are listed as caregivers
to some degree. Now that, I'm sure it's varying degrees. You got somebody who it's 24 hours a day, which we know. I mean, we all know people. I know multiple people who they have even given up their jobs, so they have an older parent who may have money or retirement or whatever and can sustain them. And they're there being a full-time caregiver. And every, like you said, there's so many people on the spectrum of, it's once per week or whatever. I mean, we heard so often heartbroken people because they couldn't go to the nursing home, and how, our friend Scott, he cites his mom's primary significant recent decline to the fact that she could not have him there loving and caring for her. And so many people were in that. So back to Jeff and Dan and even us talking about what is the motive that we have to be healthy and well, so that when I am, our parents are, what are yours, mid-70s? That's what mine
78 now.
Yeah. Okay. Mine are right along there. That age, can they, well, I'm not going to ask about ours, but when we're that age or older, can I help my kid move? Can I show up?
Yeah.
Pair of gloves and lift them into the couch and help them move? Can I, and we got somebody coming up who talks about, can I participate with my grandkids, get down on the floor, go on a hike? Can I do that? Or am I needing them to sacrifice their lives
to help me?
And I know that's going to be hard to hear for people, but man, it's daunting to know that we do have a lot of responsibility for our health, if not complete. And what we don't is going to fall on money, time, effort.
That's an interesting stat, because I think if you go to most people our age where our parents aren't needing that just yet, it's not on my radar at all. And that's an under the radar stat.
Your dad could have a stroke tomorrow.
I know. And then
if it's not your time, and what if he doesn't have the money to just have himself taken care of? You're going to do it.
Right. Or I'm talking with my sisters, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. What about mom? And so many people are into that, but that's not newspaper article stuff. This doesn't come across Facebook. This is the,
well, I'm afraid some of it's because we don't want to take responsibility for it. It's just this thing that's happening like that.
That's what I'm saying.
My parents caught disability.
And we also expect the government or somebody else to take care of that, the insurance.
Is that, and I saw that. So my mom's mom had Alzheimer's, so she went downhill, burned through all her money, and my parents paid for it. None of the other siblings had the capacity to.
Yeah.
And they took it on at a time when it hurt.
And it hurt. And Alzheimer's is also, it's like, because people get to a point where you can't bring them in the home. It's worse. It's more disruptive and maybe even worse for the person themselves. But that is what we're saying is, okay, on the front side, let's have awareness of this and redeem the time that we have right now to be becoming the kind of people with less likelihood down that pathway is a powerful motivation.
Even if I can delay it. So even if my destiny is to
have Alzheimer's,
be infirm,
you're right.
Can I delay it another 5 years? Yeah.
There are stats on that. Just delaying the onset of severe dementia by a year or 2 or 3 or 5, and the amount of time, money, headache that saves is a recognized stat. It's a big deal.
Here's another one on that. This is the one that had the grandkids. Gina Rass, she says, this is timely. 1 year ago today, I was up to 170 pounds. I'm only 5 feet tall. I was fed up with myself, pun, and saw a video by Dr. Jason Fung, one of your favorites, about intermittent fasting and eating high fat, low carb. I began June 4th, 2020, and have not missed a single day of fasting between 16 to 24 hours every day. And a few extended fasts. Aches and pains I was experiencing daily have completely diminished, and I've lost almost 40 pounds. Blood pressure, which had been creeping up, is normal, and I feel and look better than I have in 20 years. My catalyst is that life is going by quickly, and I want to experience my last season of life being in the best health I can be, and I need to keep up with 5 rambunctious grandchildren. I watch almost 5 days every week. I'm the only one responsible for me, and I will continue this way of eating and living forever. It's easy and suits me like nothing I've ever tried.
Wow.
God bless her for saying it's easy, because it's not for everybody.
Well, and she also said, I'm responsible for myself. So she made that statement herself. And I doubt that she would have said it's easy for me, 3 weeks into it.
I agree. Yeah.
On the other side of that, where you see, oh my gosh, I lost 50 pounds, and oh my gosh, my brain fog's better, my joints feel better. Well, heck, this is way easier than, the symptoms plus some, fast food or whatever.
That is true. I'll never forget when we were, God bless the mentors we had as parents. So we had little kids, and we wanted healthy food for them. So we would take broccoli. Back then, we thought we were at the best. Maybe there's new methods today, but we would just take broccoli and bought a little food grinder. So I get a workout, smushing that stuff out and give them what we ate, good tasting, healthy food. And had a friend one time say really cutely, she says, oh my gosh, I wish I had the discipline to do that. Take all the time and effort to make it, as opposed to using whatever junk she was feeding her kid, who right then was coughing, sick, runny nose, and bawling constantly. I'm going, dude, I don't have you've got way more patience than I do to deal with that sick kid. So back to what you said of, we're going to spend the time somewhere.
Well, this is the phrase.
It's hard to eat healthy. It's hard to be sick.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's hard to eat healthy. It's harder to be sick. I'm going to choose my heart. A really awesome marriage is hard, but divorce and the consequences and all that is harder.
Yeah.
And
there's a meme out there that says something like that. Yeah. It says, choose your heart.
Choose your heart. Yeah. That choose your, and where True Life Medicine, where we kind of say that is your life, whether you want it to be or not, it is your main medicine, parenthetically, or it is your poison.
Yeah.
So choose your medicine or take your poison.
Yeah. And I think I've been thinking so much just in life overall, for not just what I'm eating, but what I'm speaking, with my attitude, that am I kind of that Toby Mac, the Christian singer, and he has that song "Speak Life." Isn't that the right guy? Speak life. So I think about that. Speak life, but think life, eat life, move life.
This is going to go back to that book I keep asking you to read.
Which I bought, and they lost it.
Amazon lost it.
I just reordered it today.
So we mentioned it a couple of times. Finding quiet. And what's got me so inspired there is, the world is so keyed in on physical. So people look at me all the time and say, oh, you must run, or, oh, you must be really healthy. And it's like, why do you say that? Well, because you're skinny. And I'm like, well, you're making a huge assumption.
It is, because you could be really unhealthy skinny.
Or I could just be a jerk, right? Where I'm angry in my attitude and my sleep and my all this. And if we're saying, hey, what we want to do is be becoming, in our 50s, we want to flourish. And so it is it is even still now. Whereas like you and I have talked about before, I don't do a battle with McDonald's every day because that's gone. Somebody else might be needing to do some battle with McDonald's. Mm-hmm. But I am, as we talked about this morning, I'm getting ready to do battle with glucose and ketones. And I don't think that there's a problem with drinking too much or whatever else, but it'll be a battle to not do wine in order to get into ketosis because of the likely benefit that will be. So everybody out there, you're not as well as you could be. You could always be a little bit weller. Oh. Always be leaning into some area. I think it's Tom Ziegler. It's always be giving up one bad habit and starting a new good habit.
Yeah.
Didn't he say that?
Yeah. Fastest way to success. Replace a bad habit with a good habit. Well, speaking of our age, so Terry Johnson, he comments a lot. He's a businessman in Australia. He said this time last year, I'd say he's right about our age. This time last year, I was crawling around using a walking stick as I had damaged an L5 disc.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay.
And I was on high levels of pain meds, which knocked me around. After 4 months of physio, is what he said, and a consistent stretching and gym routine and a cortisone shot into my back, I am playing golf with a handicap of 3. God is good. I like that because we are at the age, 50s, where you get injured, you baby that, whatever that is, and you just stop doing that. And we have so many people who don't run anymore. They don't out here ski. That's the one I'm used to hearing. Yeah, I love to ski, but I just any more aches and pains or just fear that I'll get hurt and not be able to recover. And, my wife is a good example. She's had 2, let's see, in the past, I think it's 5 years now, maybe it's been 6, 2 significant car wrecks where she was, broadsided or rear-ended and neck injuries. And and it costs a lot of time. And I know it costs a lot of money, but she says, I'm not going to succumb to just being 50 years old. I got injured. Now that's who I am. She says, I'm going to make every effort to take responsibility and be well and able. God bless her for that.
God bless her. It's, I don't want to get shrunk in. I think in America, we paint ourselves into a corner, where here's another stripe of paint and I have to back up a little bit more and oh gosh, my back and oh gosh, that car wreck and oh gosh, something else. And that just keeps we get painted into a corner where then, again, you're sick enough that whoever you see is in his lane. Right? Like you get the cortisol injection, but if you're not doing the stretching and the sleeping and looking at your mattress and taking care of the metabolic inflammation, the likelihood of you returning to golf or whatever of expanding that painted in a corner thing is so low. And the likelihood of that box that you're living in getting even smaller is so high. Yeah. And that's what Terry was saying is I'm not going to let this shrink me up like that.
Yeah. Yeah. This guy's name's Kevin Miller. Must be a good fella. He says, I had spinal surgery last year. So this year committed to getting active and in shape. So again, similar, middle age. But he said, both my parents have had heart attacks. And so getting fit is imperative to live a long, productive life. Okay. Now this may not be fair. That's all he said, but he said to get fit. So I'm going to make the assumption that he got out of fit and now has to. And we're going to continue to say that what's the best, defense is to stay on the offense.
Yeah.
And if you're not fit now, don't wait till something happens.
And yet every story is I was going along in life and then something happens.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And pain is a pretty good communicator.
Yeah.
Pain and fear, really good communicators. And that's why we remember them. Everybody already knows I should eat right and exercise, don't drink, don't smoke and all of that. And it just gets, thrown out into the wind. But the best defense is a good offense. Be proactive, not reactive. Always be, and that's where in the Finding Quiet book, where I don't have to sit here and contemplate, okay, what am I fearful and anxious of? But I'm saying, okay, I don't want to get fearful and anxious. I don't want to get depressed. So I'm going to sit here and say, oh yeah, I am grateful for this. And my gratitude exercise is that. I'm going to sit here and take a minute's worth of deep breaths because I know that changes my blood pressure, my heart rate, and my et cetera, et cetera. And in that now hyper, or at least, elevated oxygen level. Now I'm going to think gratitude. Now I'm going to think, I'm so glad I'm not going to have a glass of wine tonight, because I'm going to be having something else, and because I'm going to be doing it for a different reason. That is the proactive stance, that if we could do that, if we could create a society of a blue zone, we're not going to have no hospitals and no surgeries. That's a pie in the sky utopian myth. We would have a whole lot less dementia, pain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The things that we've talked about so many times, we'd have a whole lot less of those things.
Well, and just on the offense or defense and offense, that reminds me, back with vocational and small business, training, that so many people who want to start a side business or whatever, or just don't like their job, don't do anything until they get fired. They get laid off. There's a merger, whatever. And then they go do that, and they'll go back and say, hey, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. But we also know that was the hardest time to do it, is when it was that acute. How much better to be pursuing that new job or starting that business on the side while they still had the other job that was sustaining them, instead of waiting until it ends. And now they have to do it really fast. Same thing here. So, you've said this in essence so many times. We always, all of us, every day have virus, injury, disease, whatever, knocking on our door. It's always there. Yeah. It sounds pessimistic, and that's not the point, but it's just out there. It's out there in our world, just like that. It's out there. I got COVID. You didn't, for whatever reason. You must be that much more righteous than me.
They all know that.
They all know that. Okay. But if we look at that, it's always out there, and there's a high chance that something's going to manifest at some point. We have the opportunity to be proactive, take the offense right now, and do our best to keep it from happening. Because when it does, and so many of these people are saying, it's after this thing happened that I changed my life. You're starting from such a deficit. You're starting down here where you're sick and injured, as opposed to starting now and trying to ramp up.
Yeah.
That's humanity. And I've done it too. When do I deal with my finances when they're in the crapper? That's stupid. We have people who would say, Kevin, that's not the best time to do it. Why don't you be proactive and, work now when it's good? Same thing with our health. And maybe that's the mature motivator that's hard.
Okay. I was getting ready to go down the pathway of maturity, wisdom, honesty, integrity, authenticity with yourself.
Yeah.
Down that pathway, because we are all in a pressure cooker, and everybody's got the pressure of those things: virus, bacteria, stress, sleep, job, trauma, genetics. And all of that is cooking. And so life is going on, right? The electricity in the pressure cooker's on. At some point, if it's the old, not the Instapot ones, but the old pressure cookers, remember those? And that thing on the top would go, psst.
Yeah.
Okay. So at some point, there's going to be enough of time or enough stuff that you put in there that the pop-off valve has to happen. Let's call that death, right? Like the body can no longer sustain the pressure of life, and you're going to die. And everybody, yes, that's normal. That's good. I actually look forward to that. But we wanted to have high functionality and push that curve out with, like we said, with dementia, if you can push that curve out.
Well, so the longer, not lifespan, but health span.
Health span, yeah. Extend the health span and the lifespan.
Yeah.
To where you are as defined by you, not our culture. So health is defined by me. And I would pick on a lot of these people and say, hey, if you guys came in and you were a patient, the first thing everybody said, I want to get healthy. I want to get healthy. It's like, well, define that. Is that a 5-minute mile at 8,000 feet? Or is that a 5-minute mile on your bicycle at whatever?
Sea level.
At sea level. So that health span with lifespan is what we're talking about. And the only way to do that is to proactively be changing the ingredients within this pressure cooker, turning down the time or the temperature, enhancing the strength of the pot, all of which we're going to translate over here into our life. Your life is your medicine or it's your poison. Yeah. It isn't going to be about, oh, thank goodness I have really good healthcare benefits. I mean, that's there for an acute illness, yes, and trauma.
An injury, in essence.
An injury. Yeah. An injury or a severe bacterial viral illness. Yes, you need some help, and we've got a great system for that. But if you don't want your health span to be taken down a notch by fatigue, by depression, by anxiety, by chronic pain, by all of these things that in America, if you're over 40, are normal, right? Like that's what we say. We grow that stuff. You're in the worst country on the planet. Australia is better. So yeah, it's changing the whole thing, leaning in proactively. All of the shows that we've been doing, trying to pull out each one of these little subset of an area to say, well, at least lean into and think down this pathway.
Well, and you mentioned the word fear, and to what Kevin said on here, both parents had heart attacks. I would say that's a good reason to have a healthy fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
A healthy fear that he has possibly
awareness.
Yeah. Possibly a genetic propensity. So a loaded gun in that sense. And as we also know, and I know that people don't like to hear this, but we generally have a lifestyle propensity as well, that his parents have some responsibility in their heart attacks, especially with both of them having, chances are there were some lifestyle similarities that he probably had too. And the thing he needs to question most now is, is he still continuing any of those lifestyle propensities?
I thought you were going to say that the parents have the responsibility of their own health, but they also, for probably on average, the first 20 years of a young person's life, you eat, think, breathe, and do what your parents do. And that led to heart attacks. And so he's got the first phase of his life with that, he proactively lived in such a way that led to a heart attack in his parents. And he did the same thing in all likelihood. So now awareness and recognition, a little bit of pain with the scale and his other goals. And then the awareness, the light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Yeah. And I'm going to leave my family, or worse, I'm going to linger and then be that burden on my family. And okay, so change that terrible, awful, wonderful word of why would you change? What's your motivation? And then how? And that's where we're back to, again, have a blue zone and a coach. And if you have those things, it's easier, but it's not mandatory.
It's interesting because I don't wake up in the morning going, man, I hope I find a place today where I have to work harder. I don't think I've ever really desired that. But if there's an area where I'm going to have an injury, a deficit, I want to know. Tell me so I can work harder.
Right.
So that I don't have that thing manifest, and then it's going to be even worse.
Okay. I was talking with the kids the other day, and we use the idea of if somebody is going along on a bicycle and they cannot see the cliff, but the cliff is there. Don't you think they would want to know, even though it's going to be really hard to stop my bike and I've got to put my brakes on and I've got to change my direction and all this kind of stuff? Of course.
Well, I mean, I hear you. You say, of course, but then you said it maybe when we were talking about genetics and getting genetic testing, that you've had patients say, I don't want to know.
Yeah. Well, I think because what we have in America, what we've done is we said, okay, look, so many people are running over this cliff. We're going to spend $3 or $4 trillion to have awesome surgeries and medicines, and they're just going to float their way down. And it's true, they don't die. They're not a bloodied mess, but they are not what they would have been.
They're not living.
They're not
living a true life.
They're not living true life, and they call it blood pressure, cholesterol, or fatigue, or anxiety, and they're not dying, but they're not back up there on the cliff where they could have been. Yeah. And they're floating down, now dependent on this parachute of medicine or whatever else. And the analogy is starting to kind of break down there, but you can see that people do. They're like, well, thank goodness I have a good parachute. I'm like, but if we know the plane's going to trash and there's things that we can do.
Well, and then it comes back to your primary question with patients at the beginning is what is true life to you?
Right.
What is your goal? And like you said, for me, I want ability beyond the normal.
Right. So your crash, and we use this phrase. So if you literally said, let's just say you want to run a 6-minute mile at 8,000 feet. Well, on my scale, everybody's on the scale. If we say, okay, Kevin, so if next year you run a measly 8-minute mile at 8,000 feet, then we can look each other in the eye and say, gosh, you're kind of sick. On that standard, you were ill. You were diseased because you decide is I want to run a 6-minute mile. And no doctor on the planet would say, oh, you can't say disease, you can't say illness or whatever else. And I'll be like, well, so what you're saying is we got to wait till you can't run a 20-minute mile And then we're going to say, okay, let's give you some medicines or surgery or physio or whatever. And you and I are saying no. And I'm working with patients who say no. I define those lines.
Well, I want to hit on that because that's a incredibly common testimony from the patients that come to True Life Medicine is that I feel bad. I do not have the ability. I am struggling. I'm suffering. And I've been to 4 different doctors and I've done all their tests and they all say I should be fine. But here's a medication to help the symptoms. And I don't accept that we do have, can I say we have the normal measurements that are based on the lowering norm. It's like school, like the bell curve. It's lowering to try to facilitate and manage everybody as they decline.
Yes, that is a fair, little bit of an oversimplification, but it is fair to say that normal in America ought not be normal. And we've readjusted our curves with our labs and I would say even more importantly than labs and that kind of thing are the people listening to this, your expectation. Like nobody expects, can you run a 6-minute mile? Did I overshoot you there? Are you about an 8-9 minute mile at 9,000 feet?
No, I was actually thinking about if we went over here to let's say the track over here is about 8,500. And if I was just shooting for a mile.
4 laps around the track. 6 minutes, you think you could do it?
Ooh, I don't know, 6.5, maybe 6.5.
Okay, I bet you'd be right there, right? Like, who's going to hold that up as a standard?
Oh, I'd be in the top 0.001.
Yeah, or me in the 15 pull-ups.
And that's not necessary. And to your point too, from a physical ability side, that may not even be fostering good health. That's a performance. Like you said, our buddy who does the 100-mile endurance race, that's probably not even helping his health. Now, I mean, maybe his soul and his mental.
And we have to pull those things in there too.
But for his body, he probably shortened his telomeres and killed some brain cells.
Yeah, almost assuredly.
So doing 6-minute mile over here for me, I could probably do it. I'd suffer and.
No, I would call that good because I would call that a hit. That's a 6-minute hit, high intensity interval training. Now, we're not going to do that every day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But within the construct of you defining what true life is, and you say, hey, here's my marker, and okay, the likelihood, we said this so often, if you can run a 6-minute mile at 50 and then at 51 and 52 and 53, the likelihood of you becoming a statistic or falling off the cliff is not 0, but it sure is a lot lower.
But we would all, to some degree, it would be great to have those stats. I don't know what they are. So to be 50 years old and to be, I don't even know against what norm, but to be...
Remember, I showed you one the other day, the get up off the floor stat.
Yeah.
You remember that one? If like I had you guys all sit down Indian style, whatever we call it these days.
To get up without using your hands.
Get up without using your hands.
Okay.
And if you can do that just right there, if you can't do that at 50, you're ill. Right now, is it going to be a heart attack or stroke or whatever else? And it's enfeeblement, right?
Ill is so hard of a word.
Well, feeble.
Can you say, okay.
Your capacity is lower. Your risk of
that, but that's it. I'd love to have. So, what is capacity? And if we went globally, like the blue zones,
it isn't being done. It's hotly debated, but it won't be done because the $1 trillion system is built on red zones. We define pathology. We don't have bio. I know we should.
It would be great
to create a company.
As a 50-year-old, okay, for us as 50, young 50-year-old men. At a proper capability globally of what's obviously possible would be, and I like that you should be able to run
pull-ups, push-ups,
and it probably wouldn't. But to your thing of health, it probably wouldn't be a 6-minute mile. It'd probably be a 10-minute mile.
10-minute mile,
and to do 10 push-ups, I don't know.
Well, the push-ups is on there at 20.
Really?
Yeah,
that's a lot. Seems like 20 push-ups.
For 50.
Whatever. Okay.
I think. But again, the debate, what about 21? What about 19? What about...
But if you look at the norms, like the norm for a 50-year-old male for pull-ups is like 1.
Yeah.
So if you can do 5, you're really capable. Some of the plyometrics or whatever like that, like getting up off the floor, the mobility, because we do have, I am more aware of that as I'm more endurance focused, that I can be that 90-year-old guy who can still shuffle along. That's cool for my lungs, but man,
can you drop down and do a burpee?
Exactly. Can I tie my shoes without
sitting down? Can you get your socks on in the morning?
Yeah.
This is good.
It is. All right. We're going to continue because we've got such great ones. So we'll continue on a part 2 with this.
That'll be great.
Friends, thank you for tuning in as we work to leverage the power of our unique inner drive and wake every day to our authentic, driven, and inspired lives. Thanks to Randy James, Dr. Randy James, for his incredible, as always, insight in this show amongst these topics and his personal experience with so many patients. You can find him at truelifemedicine.com. It's always great when people come out here to the mountains of Colorado to work with him, and I get to see him as well, since my studio is here in his medical practice. If you appreciate the podcast and want to share it with others, it would be a gift to us to leave a rating on Spotify. You can leave a review on Apple, and you can see these shows in full and see lots of clips on social media. You can find us at YouTube, any of the social media. Just look for kevinmiller.co. And if you want to learn how to master your own inner drive, get my book, What Drives You, on Amazon. Until next time, stay driven.
Yeah.